Hey folks, Carl here and welcome to Foxtrot Oscar. So, here we are back in Ostriv, but we have moved up to Alpha 3 and we are currently on patch 3. So, we are going to start a new game. We'll treat it as though you've never played Ostriv before, so we'll start with the very basics and work our way through. But there's some very nice new bits and pieces in the game that can help you out quite a bit. So, let's start a new game. So, new game. Now, it doesn't make much of a difference on which map you choose. Apart from this last one here, you can find yourself running out of room quite quickly. So we're going to go for one with a decent amount of space that's reasonably flat. They're all pretty flat, to be honest. So we are going to go with, the agony of choice. We're going to go with this one right there. So first thing to do when you start the game is pause it. Stop the time from moving on, because the very start of the game has some time critical elements. So now we've paused, we can take our time, we can have a good look around the map. You will know the edges of the map because they'll have a thin red line like so, and this will go all the way around the edge of the map. One thing to take note of is that the settlers always come from the top of the map as it's laid out, so up this direction. So they cannot cross the river, so you cannot start building down this side until there are bridges in place. They cannot cross an open river. And as you can see, the river starts here and it works its way all the way across the map, like so, to this side. There's the edge of the map right there. I couldn't see that thin red line there. So you have to make a choice of where you want to start your village. There's plenty of opportunity, and as you can see from this high up, you can see the grid. You can see these lines along here and along here. For those of you who are like me with OCD, this can help a lot. So where should we start our village? There's lots of open space up here. However, we need to be reasonably close to the river because early on we're going to want to start fishing. So I'm thinking we should go somewhere around here. We're reasonably close to the river, reasonably close to wood, and we've got space up this way where we can start building houses and stuff, and we've got a big huge amount of space here that we can start our farms and stuff. And of course at some point we'll be able to cross the river and get on excuse me, get onto here and start expanding. So I think I am going to plonk my village somewhere around about there. So there we go, that is now our village down. So it's saying, got hints and tips up here on the top left hand corner. Build a forestry for wood production. You do start the game with a small amount of kit. You've got 1,000 iron, 1,600 nails and 1,200 thatch, and of course you've got a small pile of wood here of 10,000. Now if we look, so we need to build a forestry for wood. So if we go into the menus, we need a production forestry. You can see right there it takes 7,400 wood and 148 nails just to build the forestry. So that is pretty much going to use up all our wood. We'll still have plenty of nails left, but it's going to use up near enough all our wood. This is why you need the forestry first. We're going to build it as close to the forest as we can, and we're going to try and follow this grid as closely as possible. So I'm going to drop the forestry right there. Other things we need at the start of the game are going to be the clay pit. So we're going to put the clay pit back here by the side of the forestry. Now in order to turn these around, you can press the F key, or you can press the Y key to go 180. F key is 90, Y key is 180. Or you can hold the T or the R button and rotate it as much as you want to. So if you're going for a completely zany village or circles or stuff like that, then you can rotate it however much you need. But if you're anything like me, little bit OCD, so you like to keep things nice and straight. So there is our clay pit. Next item we're going to need is going to be the thatchery, which is of course down here. You need thatch for the roofs of most buildings. Any of these buildings you see like this, like the farm, the chicken coop, the cow shed, houses, all need thatch on them, or they just won't get built. So the thatchery, this needs to be near to the river because they make thatch from the reeds. So we're going to rotate it so it's facing the river, and we're going to build it somewhere down here, like so. So that is our thatchery down. So I'm going to start the game up and let the settlers continue until they build the forestry. So away we go. So we're going to speed it up a little bit so we get this forestry built. As you can see, this up here is for speeding up the game and or making it play normally. I completely messed that up. This is for speeding up the game or pausing the game so you can do things. Next we have the date, so we're currently in March 1721. We currently have 23 settlers, and if you hold over the top of the settlers you can see all your open vacancies, people who are looking for jobs, migration status, so migration is allowed, water supply is sufficient. However, there is no market, no housing available, no jobs available, and no religious buildings are required at this point. Now this is one of the changes in Alpha 3. We now have some religious buildings. Next to that is our treasury. So you start with 1,000 gold. We are already down almost 3 gold, and it shows you what you have stored. So clay is infinite. You have an unlimited amount of clay. Now when you're placing the clay down, be careful because you cannot demolish the clay pit. So think carefully before you place it down. And then of course we've got our drinking water, the amount of iron we have, nails, thatch and wood. And as you start to gather more things, this list will grow. And this is the best place to come to have a quick look and see what you're short of and what you might need. So these buttons up here are your friends. Top right hand corner we have our build queue. Now you see there we have the forestry first, we then have the thatchery. Now if you click and hold down your left mouse button you can move and change the order of the buildings. So we don't need to do that at this time, but sometimes when you start building something and then you suddenly realise, hold on a minute, I need to build that first, it's quite handy because you can just drag and drop it anywhere in that build queue. Okay, so the forestry is built, so we're going to pause the game again. Now, in order for the forestry to work, it needs workers. So we click on the forestry. In here we've got plant trees, so once these trees start to run out we can tell our foresters to plant extra trees so we never run out. Next it shows you your production limits, so logs, it will always try to keep 12 logs in stock, 10,000 wood, 10,000 firewood, but at the moment 0 bark. We will not need bark until much later in the game. Next, these people can come to the forestry and buy firewood from here. However, we will set up a market stall quite early in the game to sell wood. So, and then just below that are workers. So we can designate up to 5 workers for the forestry. Below that we have the higher options. So if we click on here, we can, at this point here, we can change the wage because at the moment we cannot control anything in the economy apart from the wage. So a forester on his own is no good. He can go out, he can cut down trees, but there's no way for him to carry that huge log back to the forestry. It needs 2 workers at all times in order for this to work. So you will need 2 foresters to go out, cut down the trees and bring them back and turn them into wood stroke firewood. So we've now designated the 2 workers there, so we can continue playing, and instantly we get 2 workers straight away. This on will not hire women. You have to remember that this game is set in the 1700s in Poland, and yeah, points of view are quite different way back then. So there we go. The forester is now, 2 of them are off to start making wood and firewood. Our builders are now starting to concentrate on the thatchery. So we're going to speed up, wait for this thatchery to be built, and then we'll pause it again. So as you can see, when you fast forward the game, they do build it quite quickly. And as you can see straight away, the foresters, we already have 2,500 wood, 1,500, it jumps up and down all the time. So there we go, the thatchery is now built, so we are going to pause. So again, we need to hire people in the thatchery. Now the thatchery does have more options, because we can hire both men and women. At the moment we want all our men to concentrate on building and working in the forestry, so we are going to untick hire men, so it's females only, and we're going to hire 2 thatcheries. Once the foundation of the village is started, we will reduce this to 1, but at the moment we need them to build as quickly as possible. So right, while we're still paused, our objective has changed. We now need to build houses for all families in the camp before winter comes. Now the families still in tents are 9, so each of these tents has a family in it. You can click on each tent and it will show you the family. Okay, so we need to build 9 houses. Now we do have enough nails to do this, so we can build 9 houses straight away. Now click here for your house, and of course you can rotate 90 with the F key. So we're going to want 9 houses, and like I said before, we're going to build the houses over this side to start with. So we need 9 in total, and I'm probably going to put the mayor's house here somewhere. So if we go here and we go as close to this way as possible, so we go 1, and I'm going to leave a small gap between each house so people can get in between the houses. 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to flip 180 degrees and go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, we only needed 9. Let's get rid of that. But we only need 9, but we've actually put down 10. So I'm going to pause this one, the last one. So you just press on the play button and it pauses that build. So they will not build that house. So we're going to start playing the game again, get these 9 houses built, and then we shall move on. So like I said, we do have enough nails in order to build these houses, so the next item on the list is going to need to be a smithy. Now the smithy in here is, where are you? There he is. So the smithy, we can take the smithy building and we can rotate it like so. Now I'm going to build this in the forest here. Now I'm doing this now because it says there, need to remove 4 trees. As soon as you put a building down that needs trees removing, that is what your foresters concentrate on first. So if we plonk that down, you will see the next time the foresters go to cut a tree, they will concentrate on these 5. Occasionally when the forester cuts a tree down, it will split to 2 logs, so you get 2 for 1. Scroll back out and you will see the houses starting to go up over here, and every house is unique. It's a randomly generated house from specific bits and pieces, so it will randomly make a house. Now, once all these houses are built, they should all, hopefully, be different. We may get some the same, we may not. In fact, you know what? I think I've changed my mind. I'm not going to build that there. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to move my smithy here to the edge of this, like so, right there. So we're going to have our smithy there. It's gone into the build queue right there. After the smithy, we're going to need a carpentry, because we're going to need to start repairing things, because our carts will get damaged. So carpentry, and I'm going to jump the carpenter right next to the wood, so they will need to remove 4 trees to get that built. So they will now start concentrating on that carpentry space in order to clear those trees. So there we go, we have our first house up. Nice simple one, nothing fancy. A couple of trees and bushes in the garden. Should see this one should look quite different once it's up and built. There we go. So as you can see, quite different. This one has a porch, this one doesn't, and this one has a wooden frame around this side of the house rather than a window. So two completely different generated houses, and we're now onto the third house. So we come down here and see how our thatchers are getting on. So we have 2,000 thatchery in stock, which is their maximum. So they'll just gather reeds. As soon as some of this is used, they will convert it to thatch. And as you can see in the build queue, it shows you on that building there that there are X amount of trees that need to be removed. So there's one left to remove. Once they remove that one, they'll go back to randomly picking a tree and cutting it down. We're currently sitting with quite a lot in stock. So we're into May and we have our first 2 houses down, and we're well on our way to our third. Now at some point we're going to start to need to think about generating food, because they have enough food to last them, I think it's 2 years, and then they start to run out. They start to get hungry. If they get hungry and there's no food available, they will leave the village and the village will fail. So we have a choice of food items to go for. So if we open our menu, we can go for the boatyard and the fishing dock to generate fish, or we can go for a farm to generate wheat, barley, potatoes, quite a few other bits and pieces. So when I first started playing this way back in Alpha 2, I always went for a fishery first. But however, I have since learned that it's better to go for a farm. Now a farm, of course, it's not a huge building, but it needs fields. So we want a little bit of space. And we usually make our fields 4 squares by 4 squares. If I scroll out, you can see the squares just about. Because we're in the middle of summer, the ground changes slightly, but there's squares. We usually go 4 by 4 for a field. So we're going to dump a farm somewhere around about there. So when we build off our fields will come out into this part. We will build 4 fields in total. My teeth just don't want to work tonight. Don't know what's going on. So there's a building that goes along with the farm, and that is the hay barrack. We won't need it straight away, but I like to put it down, otherwise I have a tendency to forget. So we're going to drop a hay barrack right next to the farm there, and that is for later on in the game when we start to produce ploughs. And of course a hay barrack needs a hairdryer, at least one, so we're going to dump one. Yeah, right about there for now. And we're also going to need to start we are also going to need to supply water, so we're going to drop a couple of wells in the middle of this street. So we're going to dump one there, hold down the shift key, and we're going to dump another one there. So, and we're going to drag one of these forward in order to get it built before we move on to the smithy and stuff. Otherwise, this little well we have here will start to run out of water. And our citizens do like a moan and complain that they haven't got enough of something. So that is our first 5 houses. Do we have any the same? Oh, would you look at that? Every single house so far is different. Quite clever, actually. So what we're hoping to happen here is that all of this will get built. Both our smithy and our carpentry will get built, and the farm will get built before winter comes, so we can get our fields laid out ready for year 2. Otherwise, we will be in trouble, because we'll be at the end of year 3 before we have any real food, and that's not good. So as you can see, the paths are auto-generated. Wherever they walk the most, that's where the paths will be. And if they stop walking the path will eventually grow over and become green again. So at some point as well, we're going to need to move our carts from here, because we start the game with 3 carts. I'm going to move our carts somewhere, because this will be where I build my market with a church and a graveyard. So we are going to think of where to put our cart, and it's in trade and transport, cart parking, so there it is. So we are going to want to dump this right next to the smithy and the clay pit, right about there. So there we go. And once that is built, we'll be able to move our carts from here to here and then demolish this cart parking. So we have one family left in the tent. Their house is being built now, and we are currently just started August. And there we go, that's our last house built. So that should be our last family moving in to houses. So we are just past mid-August, and all our houses are up and built. They seem to be taking their time moving in. There we go, he's waiting for a cart. So hopefully now our builders should start on the smithy. Here they go. Once a smithy's built, we will need to assign a worker. And we're going to need, in order for the smithy to work, he needs iron and charcoal. So I'm going to slow the game down, I'm going to take it to the play point, and we're going to build a couple of charcoal pits. So our charcoal pits are in production, they're right here. Now these are instant build items, so we are going to build a small charcoal, what's the word for it, a little enclosure. So we're going to have a couple of charcoal pits, we're going to have them facing each other like this. one there, and rotate and put the other one right next door, like so. So now we can come and we can do decoration stuff, so we can start to make things look pretty. So we're going to put in a small arch. We've got a small entranceway, like so. And now we're going to build a fence around this. So again, under decoration, there's 4 types of fence. We're going to go for fence 1. Now the fence will lock on to the archway, so once you get close enough it'll flick to the archway. So we're going to just build a fence. Here comes the OCD. It's going to build a fence around this, like so. And there we go, a little fenced in charcoal place. Now our colonists really do like to sit down, so we're going to dump in here a couple of benches. We're going to have one right there. No, that's the wrong way around. That way. One there. And another one there. Do we want another? No, I don't think so. And we're going to throw in a few trees. We're going to throw in a few ash trees. So that's what they look like when they're fully grown. Of course, our foresters will need to plant these. We've got one there, and another one there. And we want one in the corners. Yeah, we'll have one in each corner here as well. Just like so. And then lastly, we're going to throw some bushes in there as well, just to try and hide this a bit. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be able to get some in. There we go. And there we go, that is our little charcoal place built. Of course, once the trees grow, it should look a lot nicer. They're already starting to fill this up. It takes 10,000 firewood, and then the charcoal gets produced, and we end up with 10,000 charcoal. So, we shall speed this back up. And there we go, you can now see that first charcoal pit is now burning charcoal. Of course, our smithy is now almost done. There we go. We'll slow that down while we do this. So we need one worker. That's enough at the moment. We're not going to need 100 metal parts. I'm going to reduce this down to 20. I want him to produce as many nails as possible. Of course, we are now starting to have less and less builders. So we're now down to only 5 builders. And of course, once the carpentry is made, we'll be down to 4 builders. And our farm is hopefully going to be staffed by females. So now that that's built, we're going to speed back up, get the carpentry built, get the farm built, set our first crops underway, and then I think I'm going to call this video here done. So let's just wait for this to get built. There's our carpenter done, so we'll slow the game down, come here, select our worker. As you can see at the moment nothing is ordered, but he will, once these break and they're getting close to it, he will repair them automatically. So you can now speed this back up. If the carpenter doesn't go, we will need to force a worker, because he's probably concentrating on building at the moment. So we're going to click on here, we're going to unhire one of the builders. He should go, there he is, into the carpentry. So now we've got a proper production buildings going, we can edit how many labourers they have. I usually like to keep the labourers quite low on these buildings, so labourers will be both men and women. We can also show who can supply the building with resources. At default it workers by hand and worker by cart, but we want our labourers to also help out, and they can do it by hand, cart, and later on in the game by wagon. So apply to all. We'll do the same for the smithy. So we don't want more than 5 labourers. Yep. And labour by hands, labour by cart, and labour by wagon. Apply to all. So he now is producing nails, and he will also produce metal parts. Oh, and look at that, while we've been talking, our farm is underway, which is pretty good. We are into October, so this should be finished, so we should be able to set this up before winter arrives and get all the rotations for crops and everything sorted out. And there we go. So we're going to pause the game, click on the farm, and we are going to come here. Again, we don't want any more than 6 labourers at any one time. Workers, we're not going to hire men, but labourers can be both men and women. Apply to all. We're going to want resource supplied by everybody and everything. We need a manager in order to do the crop rotations, and I think they thresh the crops as well, but I'm not sure on that. We want to supply for oxen, so once we do start to get the ploughs and stuff in, it's already stocked and ready. We don't want to prioritise gathering because we want them to do all the crop before they bring it in to here for processing. So we're going to want 5 workers, should all be female. Now sometimes you need to hire and fire a few times because it seems to want to hire men as the managers, but you can force it to hire only ladies. So we're going to click on play. So there we go, this time we got a female manager instantly. You should see our workers now start to come in here. So next building is going to be the haystack, or hay loft, hay shed, whatever you want to call it. We then have one more well to build, and with this building is also going to want water, and later on I will plan to put another farm here, so we're going to put a well in between the two. So we want the well, and we're going to jump it somewhere around about here, because we will build another farm here. Of course, when a farm is produces wheat, in order to make flour we're going to require a windmill, so we will get the windmill and we're going to dump it somewhere around about here. So that once the crop is done they can then do it. So one thing we haven't done is built our fields. So to add a field, you click the add field button. Quite clever that. And then of course if I zoom right in, you see a little post, so you can now generate a field the size that you want it. So like I said, I do my fields 4x4, so 4 squares. So we'll start on the corner of this square here and go 1, 2, no, we're going upwards first, 1, 2, 3, 4, so we're going to the corner of that there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's right about there, and then of course the corner of there, which is there. So that is our first field down. We can then add another field. So we'll come to this one. It will snap to the corner of that one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right about there. 4 is there, and it will snap to that corner. They're not perfectly square, but they're close enough. Add a third. So we're going to leave a 1 square gap, and we're going to go up here to there. So that's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And down here is 4. And of course our last field, because we want 4 fields in total in order to do the rotation that I use. There. So, not perfectly square, but close enough. So now that we have a manager in place, we can do our rotations here. So we're going to have a rotation of 4 on each one. So we're going to start on the first field. So we're going to start with wheat. We are then going to go for the year after buckwheat, then potatoes, and then a fallow year in order for the field to regenerate. So we want our rotation, so we're going to change this wheat to buckwheat, this one to potato, to fallow, and back to wheat. And we're going to follow this process. So here, potato, fallow, wheat, and buckwheat. Scroll down to the last one. So we will start with fallow, wheat, buckwheat, and potato. And you can now see that each year we will get 1 of each crop. Okay, so don't forget to activate each field like so. So when February comes around next year, our workers will do these fields. Now we can't plough them at the moment because we don't have a plough. We don't have access to any cattle at the moment. But that is our farm and our rotation set up. So we are going to speed this back up. We're going to get to the end of this first year, I think. So that is our second well built. No, that's our first well built. No, it's not. I'm talking absolute rubbish. That was our hay barn built right there. So they are now finishing this well here, and we will then move on to our cart, which is here. There we go. Shouldn't take too long to build this now. There we go. Right, okay, so I'm going to bring this back down again. So in order to move the carts from here to here, what you do is you bring up this menu, you click on the cart and left click and hold, and then you drag your mouse over to where the new cart is, and you can see that blue dotted line shows where it's going to move to, and then just release. That cart now is scheduled to move from here to here, so we'll do that with all 3. 2, 3, and now we can give our carpenter something to do. We can click on here because this cart parking will hold 4 carts. So if we click +1 cart here, it's now ordered. Click on our carpenter, and you can now see he has a client for a cart, and it's going to take 1500 wood and 15 metal parts. He currently has 13 right there and 3000 wood. He's got more than enough wood, he's just waiting for 2 metal parts. So hopefully the smithy will make those 2 reasonably soon, and we will then have 4 carts. Now it can take some time for these carts to move from here to here, because obviously there's a queue of things to do. So it's got to work its way through that queue before the carts will be moved from there to there. So next up is the well and then the windmill. Next thing we're going to want some form of storage. So we're going to click on trade and transport, and we're going to build 2 storage devices. First of all, we're going to build a warehouse. So we're going to want that up where our main production is. So if we flip that around and we drop that, zoom in a little bit so we can get it all lined up properly. Put that there. Now, as you can see, it's going to need 2 trees removed before they can build that. So the foresters should remove those 2 trees way before the builders get round to this. And next we're going to need a granary in order to save all our foodstuffs in. So again, trade and transport, granary. Now we need somewhere to put the granary. So we are going to drop our granary somewhere around about here, because don't forget we're going to have another farm here, and 1 granary is more than enough for the storage of all of this, for both sets of fields. So we're going to drop the granary right about right about there should do us, I think. That's our granary queued up as well. So we're going to speed back up. We are now sitting in early November. That first year is almost up. As you can see, they've already started to cut down these trees. If you click on the forester, if we slow this down, if you click on the forester and you want to see where these workers are, you can click on them and it will show you like so. There's 1 worker. You can look, you can see, it'll show you where he is. So he's currently sitting at home. Where is the other guy? So he is currently sitting at home as well. But if you want to see this permanently, if you come down to where the map is, click on here onto info overlays, you click on workers, it will show you where those workers are whenever you click on that building. So they are now both sitting inside and working. For example, if we come over to here, to the farm, it will show you there are the 4 fields associated with this farm, and each of these brown lines show you where each of the workers are. It can be quite helpful, especially when it's getting close to the end of the year and you're still collecting crops, and it's like, where are all my workers, when you can see where they are, and it annoys you a little bit more. So let's speed this back up. So there we go, our cart parking is empty, so we can now click on here and click demolish. Now, thankfully this one demolishes instantly, because I don't know why it does, but it does. But if you demolish any of the buildings that you've built, they have to be deconstructed by the workers, and you get all of your materials back. Of course, once the warehouse is built, we'll be able to get rid of this building, will automatically disappear. And once we build the mayor's house, this building will also disappear. And we are then going to build our market here, and we're going to build our church grounds around here somewhere. So let's speed up. So how many workers do we have at the moment? We have 4 builders at the moment. Our farm is full. We still have a worker here, here, and 2 workers here, and the 2 workers in there. So now that this initial part of the village is built, we can now reduce the workers in our thatchery. As you can see, we're struggling for nails here because our smithy is not building them quick enough. That's probably because he built that. The priority went to metal parts in order to build the carts. Okay, that's our windmill up, so we won't hire a worker in here yet, but I mustn't forget to. We won't need a worker in there until the end of next year when we start to get some crops. And we've just moved into December, and here comes the snow. As you can see, our money is currently sitting at 782. We can't increase or decrease rent, food prices, or any of that stuff just yet. But what we are going to do is we're going to build our first... Slow that back down. We're going to build our first market stall, which is going to be around here. So we're going to build our first stall here, and then once this stuff disappears we can build the rest of the market. So trade and transport, a market stall, and we are going to we're going to drop our first market stall right about there. This of course builds instantly, and here you can decide what you're going to sell in this store. So at the moment the only thing we can sell is firewood. So you can see there's quite a list of stuff that can be sold once you start to produce it. So we're just going to put a couple of firewood in there. We're going to change this to hire women only. We're going to want no more than 2 labourers at a time working and helping out with this stall. We're going to labour by hand and by wagon. We're going to hire 1 worker. We'll speed up. Now you should see her go off to the forester and pick up some wood. Looks like she's going home for a cup of tea first. So once that granary is built, we're going to need to build a new house so we can start to get people coming into the village. There we go, she's now collecting firewood. And we should start to see it sold, and we should start to make a little bit of money. You can see there, the actual forestry itself sold 4,500 firewood in 1721, so that's this year. Oh look, I missed that. That is our warehouse built. So we can get into here now, some storage. So we can store some charcoal, iron, wood and firewood. Now charcoal we're going to want to store quite a bit of it. So 10,000 iron, we're going to want to store 1,000. Firewood 20,000. It's always nice to have lots of spare, and the same for firewood. There we go, we don't need to hire a worker here, because the labourers will fill it and empty it, so we don't want no more than 5. And labour by hand, labour by cart and by wagon. So speed that back up. You should see some labourers now start to bring some of this stuff into storage. Okay, we have just finished our first year, and that's how far we've got. So we managed to get all our settlers into housing. We've got the first part of our industry up and running. We have a forester, a smithy, a carpenter. We're producing charcoal, we're producing thatch. We have our farm built and our windmill. We are currently just putting up the granary in order to store everything we produce on the farm. One thing I'm going to put down before we finish this video is going to be the town hall, which is under government. So click on government. It's the only building in there at the moment. So we're going to put our town hall up here at the head of this column of houses, right about there. Now when we come back for the next episode, we will see the food production. We can start now to expand our housing. So we're going to move this one back here, and it's switched back on. So once the mayor's house is built, we will build our first additional house and hopefully attract more settlers. Now settlers won't come until there is enough food for sale. So if you can see here the migration status, it shows migration is allowed, so migration is currently switched on. The water supply, we have more than enough water, however there's not enough food for sale. As you can see at the moment we're not selling any food at all, and of course there's no housing available, so there's actually nowhere for them to move in. However, there are jobs available, so there's plenty of work for more settlers, and at this time no religious buildings are required. You do not require a religious building until you get to a colony size of 100. So that is us. I'm going to sign off here. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed what you've watched. I hope it's shown you how to set up a village in Ostriv. Of course my talking doesn't help because I just bumble and mumble and get my words all wrong. But hey, we are only human. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Be good, be safe, keep playing games and enjoying yourself, and I shall catch you next time. Ta-ta.